everyone. So this video is an update on the video I did just over a week ago on a private clinic that's been set up, run by former NHS Tavistock staff, and what's happening there. So this is the story that's in the Mail online. It says, now health watchdog probes private gender clinic set up by staff from scandal-hit Tavistock unit. So the private clinic is being investigated just 1 month after it was opened. Critics have voiced fears that Gender Plus poses a serious risk to young people. So in the last video, we covered that the private gender clinic was run by former staff from the scandal-hit NHS Tavistock Centre. Now it's being investigated by the government's health watchdog just 1 month after opening, which is the Care Quality Commission. The Mail on Sunday can reveal that the controversial new Gender Plus clinic, which may refer children and teenagers for gender reassignment surgery and hormone treatment, is being probed for failing to register with the health regulator, the Care Quality Commission, or CQC, which said it was not currently looking at a criminal investigation. Last night, critics voiced fears that Gender Plus poses a serious risk to young people. Around half of the clinic staff previously worked at the Tavistock's Gender Identity Development Service, which is the NHS's only clinic treating children for gender dysphoria, which was ordered to close last year after a damning NHS review. Dr. Hilary Cass ruled the service was not safe for children. It also came after a CQC report saying it was not fit. The clinic, which opened in the 1980s, was strongly criticised for allegedly rushing thousands of teenagers onto life-altering puberty-blocking drugs. Since then, former patients have come forward saying that they regret their transitioning. Former Tavistock staff opened Gender Plus, which has offices in London, Birmingham and Dublin, last month. The company's website says it provides specialist gender assessment for children, adolescent and young adults. They offer referrals to clinicians who provide hormone treatment and surgery. And as we covered in the last video, each session costs £275 for 1 hour appointment. And they would say that people would require 6 sessions for a full assessment, costing £1,650. There are concerns from doctors that the consultations are being carried out remotely via Zoom calls. So 6 hours on Zoom is all that will be required according to this clinic. Gender Plus's clinical director, Dr. Aidan Kelly, was at Tavistock for 5 years until it was closed down, while 6 other former Tavistock staff work for Gender Plus. Its website claims the company is in the process of setting up an associated hormone clinic, which is run by the consultant nurse Paul Carruthers, who was a member of the Tavistock NHS team from 2015 onwards. Gender Plus is already facing issues. The new clinic has alarmed officials at the Care Quality Commission, which has started investigating its practices last week. A source at the watchdog has said, based on the information available on this company's public website, the registration team has referred Gender Plus to the National Enforcement Team as an unregistered provider for further review of these services. Investigators will seek to establish whether Gender Plus should have been registered with the regulator prior to it opening. However, Gender Plus say they are offering consultation and therapy sessions that do not require CQC oversight, as clinical services would. I'm just going to butt in here. The CQC state quite clearly monitoring of all mental health services. So it states all health and adult social care providers that are carrying on a regulated activity, including those providing mental health care, have to be registered with us. They must meet certain legal requirements before they can register. These include the fundamental standards of quality and safety. The watchdog has previously branded the Tavistock's gender unit as inadequate following a 2020 inspection. 2 years later, it was shut down by the NHS, following almost 2 decades of concerns from former staff, patients and relatives. Critics said the Tavistock's clinic affirmative treatment model ignored evidence that an astonishing 97.5% of children seeking sex changes had autism, depression or other problems that might have explained their unhappiness rather than gender dysphoria. Dr. Kelly is described by Gender Plus as having specialist skills in the assessments of gender identity needs and making recommendations for gender-affirming medical treatments, and is passionate about increasing access to care for gender-questioning people. But while the Gender Plus website lists 8 of its employees as having a doctor in front of their name, none of them are registered with the General Medical Council and instead have academic PhDs or doctorates in psychology. I showed you in the last video the clip of one of the clinicians, Iggy Moon, who's previously claimed that considering gender to be a male-female binary is inherited from colonialism, and there's a clip of that video which I'll link in the bio here. Last night, Dr. Louise Irvine, a GP with 27 years experience, who is part of the clinical and advisory network on sex and gender, said, Gender Plus employs several former Tavistock staff and appears to use the same discredited affirmative model of care, involving referral for puberty blockers and hormones, that led to the decision to close it after a CQC inspection deemed it inadequate. Gender Plus is not registered with the CQC, so how will patients and their parents know that they are getting safe and effective care from an unregulated provider? Concerns were also raised by distinguished psychiatrist and NHS whistleblower Dr. David Bell, who worked at the Tavistock before he quit and issued a report accusing the clinic of causing long-term damage to young patients. And there's a clip, obviously, of David Bell in the last video. He said, young people who present with gender identity problems have many other psychological disorders, and it is vital that there's a full psychiatric and mental assessment, and I'm surprised that Gender Plus do not think it is necessary to have a psychiatrist as part of the team. I hope that the appropriate authorities will act quickly to prevent damage being done to children. Tory MP Dr. Caroline Johnson, a former consultant paediatrician, has said, at a time when NHS England is improving care and safeguarding for this group of vulnerable children, it is of great concern to see a new private clinic being opened which does not appear to have any medical consultants and seems to have so many staff from the discredited Tavistock clinic. NHS England recently confirmed that it would prescribe puberty blockers to children only as part of clinical trials. I'm just going to interject here and say they're also going to do it if children can get hold of them from elsewhere and then they turn up. The clinical trials part, I don't know why we're even entertaining the idea. We know puberty blockers cause harm. We know they don't support any advancement of mental health or dealing with any gender incongruence. There just needs to be an outright ban. So it's concerning that there isn't currently. It said that there was not enough evidence to support their safety or clinical effectiveness. We know this, and there shouldn't be any puberty blockers given to any child. There are concerns that private clinics such as Gender Plus may be able to bypass these new protections. Last year's NHS review said that there was not enough research on the long-term impact of hormones on young people. It also raised fears that doctors were under pressure to adopt an unquestioning affirmative approach to gender identity. Stella O'Malley, a psychotherapist and director of the medical campaign group GenSpect, said it is notable that despite offering referrals for hormones and surgery, Gender Plus is not registered with the CQC, which may highlight the lack of due care that is being offered by this enterprise. We are deeply concerned that Gender Plus have established themselves as a clinic that will continue to follow the discredited gender affirmative model. This system of care has been evaluated and found to be profoundly lacking. Gender Plus appears to be following a profit-making business model rather than following the Hilary Cass report, which recommended multidisciplinary regional teams operated through the NHS. Stephanie Davis-Ari from Transgender Trend added, "The worry is that this service is not registered with or regulated by the CQC, and that Gender Plus will provide a service based on ideology. This would put children at risk as it did at the Tavistock. Bayswater Support Group, which represents parents of transgender children, which don't exist." I'm just reading it out. "It is very concerning that Gender Plus is already operating without being registered by the CQC and is therefore completely unregulated. Gender Plus looks like Tavistock 2.0. The claim that this private clinic is following the evidence-based reforms set out by the Cass Review appears very unlikely." A spokesperson for Gender Plus said last night, "Our service management have previously clarified with the CQC that the holistic psychosocial service we provide, which includes gender, mental health and neurodevelopment assessment and support, does not fall under their remit and as such is not eligible for CQC registration. If in the future we do provide services which will require CQC registration, then of course we will seek registration." He added that their team of experts in healthcare, mental health and neurodevelopment accepts referrals for children, adolescents and adults to help address it, as it says again, the huge level of unmet need. The huge level of unmet need is to do with mental health issues, which are generally iatrogenic, caused by society and other issues, and not because children need puberty blockers. The CQC has said it was not undertaking a criminal investigation, but if new information becomes available that gives reasonable grounds to suspect an offence may have been committed, we will consider appropriate action. So that's just the current update, and as any further news comes in, we will have a look at that. Hopefully, CQC will ask them to register and they won't be able to meet the registration. That's what I'm hoping for. So I will keep you posted, and thanks for listening and watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.